the Theatre of the Mind, live, number 243. Yeah, wrong. We'll get to the sermon, we'll get to the welcome after we've taken some parish notes this evening. Oh, I say, has one noticed? I'm not going to tempt fate. Let's see how long it takes. Oh, hang on, let's do that. So welcome to the body of the Kirk. If you're a newbie, please let me know in the comments and I'll pop your cherry. Of course, that's what we do with newbies and people that are commenting for the first time and or even watching for the first time. We take parish notes until 7:30 because invariably there's lots of information in the comments pre the live, so we'll take the parish notes and then we at 7:30 are going to get into it. I will tell you, my head is spinning tonight simply because I've got so much information, so many facts, so many deep dives that I don't think we're going to get it all done tonight. We didn't last night, and it's been a very busy day today. So we will be following the money in just a little while. Let me get into the parish notes first, and then I'll talk about what's coming up in the sermon. I'm attempting to moderate my breathing, which is a cure-ish. Oy, oy, oy. So we take the parish notes while people get themselves into the pews. They're called the stammers in this particular body of the Kirk. Why? Because they're hard on your derriere. We do have pals cushions because seemingly they're the most comfortable when you've got wood. Sorry, the stammers are wooden. And free Battenberg for everybody within the body of the Kirk. If you don't know the story about the Battenberg, ask some of the other parishioners and wait for them to stop laughing first. And there's altar wine, obviously. If it's an altar G&T, then so be it. Sister Mary is wandering around. I think Stuart's going to give the game away in just a little while. But Petal Cake is first in, says, oh, Reverend, the reason for his hands, that's Charlie Kirk, being waxy looking and strange in the coffin was because he was embalmed. A lady who does the work said it was perfectly normal. Embalming someone before an autopsy was done. Curious. I think we are looking for answers. Excuse me. I knew it would start. I take your point, Petal Cake. I take your point. Les Griffiths, I have doubts about what's happened if Charlie Kirk is gone. It wasn't by a 30-06, whatever happened. So far, we haven't heard the truth. Agreed. I am going to talk about some of the... And how I'm framing it this evening, it's the presence of the unusual in the usual. That's Charlie Kirk. We are going to have a further deep dive. I've got facts and facts and facts, and we just need to look at this with common sense, because what they're after is chaos, planned chaos, and they want us diverted and distracted this away, like Trump's speech at the UN. And in this country, Strictly Come Dancing, one of the contestants isn't going to dance this coming weekend. That's front page news. Good on you, the Sun. No wonder you're losing money, mate. Mind you, he was there at the royal dinner last week for Trump because seemingly Digger is Murdoch is going to take over the American version of TikTok. Make more money than his bloody newspapers. Well, in my view, of course, the Sun at one... I think 2 years ago, in one financial year, lost £50 million. Nice. Successful, then. It's not what it used to be. And Les continues, after the shooting, why was there no police on scene or yellow tape barriers? It wasn't treated as a crime scene. Normally is, says Les. Why is that? And I think the only way to get to the bottom of this, or whatever we are being offered as the story, the narrative by the Keystone Cops, that'll be the FBI then, it's just chaos. Oh, shall we all meet in Valhalla? Cash, mate? Isn't that an island off New Zealand? Do you think? So, as a as part of the Charlie Kirk deep dive tonight, why would they send him to New Zealand if he is in a witness protection program when he's got millions and millions and millions, and his missus has got millions and millions and millions, and he's got 2 kids, and the missus is going to take over Turning Point, and what does he fancy, Maoris or something? Does he want to do the haka? Why? Because maybe a foreign power wanted to blow his head off? We shall get to that in just a little while. Les also says, Petal Cake, I've seen close-up bodies that have been embalmed, both of my parents and several friends, and their hands looked nothing like that. Of course they didn't, including Donald Trump's. And he's using makeup. At that level, money is no object, power is no object. So they could have had the autopsy done in 24 hours. They could have just gone, here, you, on behalf of the president, autopsy. But they're not releasing any of the details, are they? Oh, no, not at all. Because then it flies in the face of the narrative that the FBI are trying to go, yeah. That's Cash Patel. It was an impression. Coca-Cola, anyone? Stuart says, thank you, Les, of course, welcome to the body of the Kirk, young sir. Stuart says, evening, Adrian. Sister Mary was saying you have noticed how, have you noticed how ranty the Rev has been? Where's the Jaeger bombs? She says, I know you brought some back. And Stuart says to Sister Mary, well, of course I did, but you'll never find them. She's gone looking. She'll make a bloody better detective than the FBI. I bet she finds it. The wrong one. And I bet the bottle's empty by the time I finish this live. The utter wrong one. Neil Cunningham says, good evening, everyone. In the congregation, I was frisked on the way in by one of the Austrian nuns. She needs to get out of that habit. Neil. Not a bad stab. Yeah, the Austrian nuns. They're beginning to look at me as if I'm the prey and they're the hunters. I'll tell you more about that over the coming weeks. Des Ashton says, good evening all, just back from picking up the Battenberg for tonight's show. It occurred to me that we should have an inspiring anthem for the arrival of the Rev. Make sure we are awake. Bless you. Thank you, Des. Welcome to the body of the Kirk, sir. And Les Griffith says, sniper attack on immigration facility in Dallas. 2 dead, several injured. Shooter unalived himself. Oh, that's a bit convenient. David Graham, evening. This Saturday marks the 200th anniversary of the famous Stockton to Darlington Railway. Basically, that started the railways of today. And Des continues, after some musical consideration, I'm voting for Zadok the Priest by Handel for the coronation of George II in 1727. Bloody hell, nearly 300 years. Isn't Zadok the Priest the kind of fanfare for the Champions League? Champion being having a different meaning in the northeast of England. It's champion. That is their version of Zadok the Priest, isn't it? Zadok. He's in the Bible, Zadok the Priest. What do I know about Zadok? Ooh, I may have to delve into my recesses to see if I can get that right. But Des, well, I mean, I'd love to champion come into the body of the Kirk to the Champions League theme. Oh, lovely. Better than Downton Abbey's theme, that's for sure. No, it's not. Downton Abbey's theme is one of the best TV themes ever. Breaking news, family of 3 brought to Britain from France as part of the alleged one in, one out. Nonsense. Just being on GB News now, says David Graham. Thank you, David. That'll be 1 out, 3 in. I did tell you that back in 97, 98, when the evil entity that is Charles Linton, Bow Street Magistrates, obviously not his real name, but if you Google it, you'll find it. And he, his Labour government decided that what they would do is count the male heads coming in, which is what they do now, not the family, just the male heads. And then, if they got rid of any of them, they counted the male heads and the missus and the kids. So, and no doubt, this this government of crooks and liars and ne'er-do-wells and up for the odd spondulics, I will guarantee you that they will be using that system because it's already in place after the Blair government. So thank you, David. Welcome to the body of the Kirk, sir. Les Griffith says, David, we need to remove the traitors in office by tactical voting, primarily front benches. Well, I think you'll find two-tier, free gear, queer as folk, Arsenal supporter. So Keir has already done that. He's done all their political needs. Nobody's going to challenge him. No one. Unless you're Andy Burnham, and Andy Burnham's going to give a speech at the Labour Party conference next week. Oi, 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 oi. Gloves off, anyone? Oh, go on then. I do. I mean, it's intellectual rigour, but I would prefer if they decided to, box each other's lugs off. Technical term, obviously, that we use in radio. I'm not advocating any kind of violence. But if it's a sport, Les, we need to send those traitors to the Tower of London, says David. And what the women don't realise is that the company who make the product said that, this is a bit random, David, women should not take this stuff. You couldn't make it up. Well, I will pass a little comment, and I was going to do this in the main sermon this evening, but all of the left who don't like Trump, and Trump has said don't take paracetamol whilst you're pregnant because it contains stuff that could bring about ADHD and autism, because there is a chemical within it that I can't pronounce and I can't remember it. I can't regurgitate it immediately. But so all the left are going, oh, up yours, I'm taking paracetamol. I mean, the lunatics have taken over the asylum. And they're saying, well, he's not a medical practitioner. He's not a doctor. Anthony Fauci was and is. Did you believe him? Down to your judgment. And we don't judge here. We laugh. We don't judge. So these women that are like, pop the pills. Goldilocks. It's utter madness. And it's not the Trump, the Donald. I mean, he did tell you that when we were locked down or going into lockdown, he was telling you about hydroxychloroquine. Remember that? And then he was telling you about ivermectin and fenbendazole and all the stuff that kind of helped. Hydroxychloroquine. Oh, they didn't want you taking that. No. There's profit in those jibber jabbers. Profit. And we want to make profit. Big profit. And that's why Bill Gates, I saw something today, Bill Gates has kind of dropped, sold his shares in the jibber jabbers, and now there's something else to do with jibber jabbers, a different kind of jibber jabbers that he's now put his money in, because he made $500 million profit on the first jibber jabbers for the Charlie 19. Adrian, what are you talking about? I'm using words to get past the, so they because if you say something with a V, or you say something with a C, caring, understanding, 90s type, they'll stop you. Try it in the comments. There's certain words. Although Google has come out today and said that all those YouTube channels that they banned because Joe Biden's administration told them that they couldn't talk about the jibber jabber, they're going to reinstate them. I mean, nothing like an admission of lying, is there? Google, what-o? YouTube, what-o? You're telling us that you're reinstating YouTube channels that were telling the truth, but you said because Joe Biden's administration told you to, collect them. That's very kind of you. So, we'll kind of talk about where are we? I think we're just about there. Evening, Amalia. Evening, Random Jack. Evening to Dave Johnson. Viagra. Way-o, Dave Johnson. Terry Wookfit. Cotton Bollocks. Both of them. Or what do the Scots use? They use I can't remember the first word. It's Anne Borjaws. I could never say it correctly. It's kind of schmeckle, but it's a Scottish word for it. It's a bit like fud. Now you're thinking, oh, the Reverend's gone rather posh, saying food is fud. No, the Scots have a very nice word and meaning for the word fud. Caring, understanding, 90s type. But if the, fud. If the Scots say that to you and you start laughing, oh, I'll take that. They're calling you a caring, understanding, 90s type. I love it. I love the Scots vernacular because it's straight to the point. Tom Harney's up the Arsenal. That's what Two Tier says every time he goes to the footy. Up the Arsenal. Oh, sorry. More lube. I think cheese and biscuits and green tea are in order. All to the kitchen. Fantastic. Right, everybody around Amalia's. We've got a bit of... hang on a second, Amalia. Cheese and biscuits. Cheese on toast. Do you put the Leon Perrins on the bread and put the cheese on top? Or do you put the cheese on and the Leon Perrins on top for a bit of taste? I literally read a full page of a newspaper the other day talking about it. That's the level we're at 2025. Got a diagram stuck in my throat, ended up with a stiff neck. Neil, you're wrong. Take Viagra if you get stuck. Evening, Alan. Evening, Random Jack. Some of my neighbours thought I'd gone crazy a few years ago. Now they know I'm not. Brilliant, Random Jack. Well, exactly. But those bloody conspiracy theorists. Well, we haven't been wrong yet, have we? We're not theorists. We're conspiracy right-ons, baby. Leon Perrins goes on melted cheese, not on bread, says Terry Wuckford. I tend to agree with you, but honestly, there was this article in the press last week saying, oh, no, put the Leon Perrins on the bread. What? No! Welsh rarebit. Welsh not getting any, let alone rarebit. Hang on, Reg D's got the green cheese. We're not going around Reg's, we'll all get poisoned. And as I've said many times, when it comes to cheese, I don't eat anything with a blue vein in it. Sorry. That's not the gag. The gag is I don't allow anything with a blue vein in it past my lips. Cheese, obvs. Neil Cunningham, sack the Leon Perrins, cheese and red... Oh, yeah, beauty. Cheese and red onion on toast is the way forward. And do you know, I absolutely know my audience. Talk food, woof, here we go. Evening all, Robert Eddington. Welcome, Robert. You haven't been around for a little while, but welcome to the body of the Kirk. Everyone's in. Feet under the starmers, and we're getting there. Mature cheddar is the best cheese of all time. David, Red Leicester honestly, Red Leicester in cheese scones and or toast, cheese toast or Welsh rarebit. Brilliant, Super Ted. Stay off the recreational gear, you wrongin'. Super Ted says, evening, Adrian. When I squint my eyes, your plant looks like an alien. What? Him, or that? Super Ted, up the borough. That's not Sir Keir Starmer shouting that, because we know what up the borough means to Sir Keir Starmer. Mind you, he does like teams that play in red and white. I'm not an Arsenal fan. I don't like it up my arse, says Louise Hampson. Oh, I say, Louise, what can a gentleman say to that other than, whew. Amelia Grassi, Port Salut. Oh, yeah. Squeezy, tubey, Primula cheese and organic butter on sourdough crackers. Off I go. And we're following you, Amalia. I hope you got plenty in. Random Jack says, so I say. No. Shall we, Des Ashton, here we go. You and food. This audience. Grate the cheese, then mix in the Leon... Oh, I say, Des Ashton is a culinary artist from what he's saying, but if you want proper pucker, cheese on toast, Des says, grate the cheese, then mix in the Leon Perrins, then coat the bread, grill until bubbling, and golden extra sauce to taste. Amalia, I think half of us are going to Des's. Stilton stuffed shrooms, you can't whack it. I bet you can't. I do tend to whack one off the wrist every now and again. It's just an age thing, I suppose. But shrooms? Wasn't it that woman that poisoned all those people? She got jailed for years for like killing all these people, feeding them poisoned mushrooms. I never have shrooms when I go to somebody else's house. No, I'll do that in my own house. You're wrong. But Alan, thank you for that. From a maximum security... Hang on. From a maximum security stockade to the Los Angeles Underground, today still wanted by the government, they survive as soldiers of fortune. If you have a problem, if no one else can help, and if you can find them, maybe you can hire the A-team. Thank you, young Wookfit. I'm putting on my best voiceover voice. Right, that's it. Isn't Mushroom in here? Oh, dear Lord, Dale. All right, squeeze up. Dale's attempting comedy this evening, so we might have to just make sure there's plenty of room for him. Piles Cushion's over there. Battenberg down the front, and the altar wine is there. If you speak to one of the altar boys, they'll bring it. It's normally 2 miles past. Alan says, oh, they're magical shrooms. They're obviously covered in Stilton, or is it the Stilton covered in shrooms? I've only noticed the poster behind Adrian is himself and not Michael Ball. Oh, Paulie Galtieri. Tough audience, you tart. Napoleon blown apart. Let's try this again. Everything rebooted except myself. Get the Mrs. Blown apart to give you a helping hand, Napoleon. Works for me every time. Terry Wookfit, I am not a mushroom. I'm a fun guy. Dear Lord. Here, Wookfit, have you been sniffing the barmaid's apron, or has somebody been putting too much of the cooking sherry in your trifle tonight? I'll give it to you. I'm going to rephrase that. It's funny. Priapism, says Cuban Pete. Are you lot off your heads tonight? Stuart's gone Toblerone. Brr, brr. If you know the gag, you know the gag. I'm not doing it on here. I'll get deplatformed. Amalia, my favourite, is a toasted crumpets, butter marmite, and Sainsbury's barbecue sauce. It is. We've got options this evening. We're either around Reg D's or Amalia's or Des Ashton for the... dear Lord, Des, how long have I known you? I can't even get your name right. Round at Des's for the culinary delight. So, had you wished, as we say in the Northeast, which is... hold it there. I'm going to get to the Simon this evening. I'm going to tell you about my... well, I've been a bit of a naughty reverend today. I've been a very naughty reverend. But, well, I took on AI. And I won. AI. Full of shite. Said a spokesperson. I'm going to talk about Charlie Kirk because the dissection continues. We might touch on Russia versus Ukraine. Ukraine. It's all a distraction, man. Migrants, I've got new data for you. Important data that comes via Rupert Lowe. Trump, well, the left don't like him. They don't like him, but the left's going to get it where Starmer's sun don't shine. Stuart says, I don't know the gag, and what makes it worse, Toblerone is my favourite. That's why I prefer white Toblerone, Stuart. I am a big fan, and I can demolish one of those big bars in minutes. Food porn, here we go. English mustard on cheese on toast, says Ian McGee. You say you're just up in the ante. And Amalia says, I've never taken that, but nice for the rest of it. Oh, I say, Amalia, am I? Am I reading too much into that? Oh, barbecue sauce. Sorry, Reg, didn't see it. Tell you, Wookfit, good, isn't it? One in, one out is really families in, one out. And there's nothing we can do about it. Yeah, I know. Feckers. I spent yesterday arguing with AI about the flu jab and won. I'm not having it. Alan, wait till I tell you what I asked AI. So let me tell you my experience because I've just been a very, very well. I'll be defrocked and I'll absolutely lose my weekend name, Ethel. And being defrocked is not the same as being frocked. If you know what I mean. But so today I thought, do you know, I have the grace of Yahweh, God, however you want to term him, the great I am, the great one. And in the beginning was the word. And the word was, right, so we've got a word that started me and you, a word, God. So in the beginning, this is from the Bible, in the beginning was the word. So there was nothing else. Just the word. Or is that intention? Bend over. So I thought, right, I'm going to ask AI some very important things today. Alan, Thor? Well, we will do when it warms up. Gary Shabot says, I keep getting emails asking me to go down and have the flu jab and the jibber jabber. I don't think I can reply to mine, but I'm not having it. Me too. They're after me, because when you become a certain age, they go, oh, would you like a prick? No, thank you. That's not for me. In every sense. Des Ashton says, oh, we got our invite to have a free flu jab, went straight into the bin instead. I'm with you. I'm with everybody that's refused it, because, look, if you work on your gut biome, we'll get to the AI in a moment. I'm just taking a little pause. If you work on your gut biome, then, and echinacea works, and I'm not one of these tree-hugging hippie types by any stretch of the imagination, but the body is a wonderful thing, and I don't need anybody putting their prick in me, said a spokesperson. Obviously not a Labour spokesperson, because they're all at it. As I've said before, women for procreation, men for recreation in the Labour Party. Terry, AI is a bit American. Ask it to draw something British. It can't. Well, Napoleon blown apart, and the word was, hello, I'm God. Would you like me to? No, I've heard about you and the Catholic Church, so no, I'm not bringing my kids to the party either. Random Jack says, I got a message from the doctors that gave me the option to decline, which I did, because they know. Well, I'm not speaking for anybody else, but my doctors know that when I go in and I sit with the doctor and I don't negotiate. So I've got an appointment in the morning. I've told them I want antibiotics. I also want you to tell me what I need to eat after the antibiotics to reflower, so to speak, my gut biome. And oh, by the way, I'm having a chest X-ray. Oh, right-o, what-o, we make money from that. I know you bloody do, which is why I'm asking for it, just to keep you on my side. If the Bible was to be written today, the first two people on earth would be trans, Adam and Steve. I think you'll find that... let me just say this. It's not misogynistic in any way, shape or form, because it's biblical. And if anybody wants to take the Bible on, good luck with that. I mean, you can have the King James Version, which is basically Tyndall. Oh, God, I've forgotten his first word. Well, he was a bit of a knowledgeable boy, so he could speak Latin and Aramaic and English and stuff. So he translated the Bible. And then the Catholic Church, William Tyndall, the Catholic Church burned him at the stake for heresy. But then the king came along and nicked all of William Tyndall's work. And like the Old Testament, the Torah is, 75% William Tyndall's work, translated, and the New Testament is 85% William Tyndall's work. But because a king put his name to it, the Catholic Church went, oh, of course, Your Majesty. Yes, we'll use that for the next 500 years. Napoleon blown apart. And these here in Liverpool, the word was Dodd. Terry Wookford, read the Bible properly. Adam and Eve weren't the first two people. No. Adam was the first, and then from Adam, he created Eve, a bit of spare rib. Just paraphrasing, of course. I'm not going to go all biblical on you tonight, because I want to get to the AI and what I asked it today. I basically told it to go in Foxtrot Oscar. So you have Adam. Adam was the first human being. I'm not suggesting that there was any other beings before Adam, because we don't know that. Just ask Göbekli Tepe. Is that where Adam lived? Because they reckon that the Garden of Eden is in Turkey, as is Noah's boat. But Eve was created to supplicate Adam, to be there. Because I will say this categorically, women, in my view, are the superior being. I mean, they can multitask. We can't even drink beer and watch sport on the telly. Sometimes. So, women are the superior being. In my view, they give birth. But they can't give birth without us. Even the scientists can't do that. Alan says, King James was a right old piece of work. They all are. Shaggers. No, Adam wasn't the first. Read the Bible properly. I did, from left to right, not right to left, Terry. See what I did there? Neil Cunningham, Eve liked a good bone. The gags are getting better, Neil. Random Jack, it's metaphorical. I know it is. Of course it is. And if you go to Galatians in the New Testament and you read chapter 4, it's all about allegory. Stories. Stories. And what it tells you in Galatians, there's no such thing as Abrahamic religions. Oh my word. No Jews, no Muslims. It's all allegory. It's stories. Abraham and Ishmael didn't exist. Oh, bugger me. Don't say that in front of Starmer. I say, does Ashton Lilith, pre-Eve. Yeah, so they had sons. How did they procreate? With a son shagging the mother. Just asking for the human race, that's all. Yeah, Eve was a mate that was created for Adam, and God said, go forth and multiply. Or, in the words of the great Chinese philosopher who was around at the time, Foxtrot Oscar. Les Griffiths, Jesus quoted them. Of course he did. So, adamant. Are you adamant, Albert? So let's kind of park that, because we'll end up doing this all night, because the Bible is one of my favourite subjects, unless obviously I'm crossing swords with Laird Wookfit. So I'm going to give you some thinking time until Sunday for the next live, because what I've tried over the last few weeks, months, is to kind of layer it up, which is I know from the comments, and I know from how regular people come to these lives, they love it. So I'm not I'm not here to go, I'm the font of all knowledge, because I'm not. I'm like you, just finding my way through the chaos, but have a little more understanding, having been in the media, radio, TV, newspapers and magazines, editor of a magazine. I've been a writer, had my own column in newspapers, and you know about my radio stuff and my telly stuff. I was nearly the Channel 5 star. When Matthew Wright named John Leslie. Long story, another night. But I'm going to I'm going to leave. I'm going to try and put up next live at the beginning of the day. Or the night before, because what I'd like to do is create a community. Now I can post stuff in posts on YouTube here on the channel. I don't think that's as flexible, but what I'm going to do is if you want to post anything in the comments for the community to look at, if there's something breaking, or if you want anybody to look at what is going on in the world, just stick it in the comments. And that way, as a community, we can bring order out of chaos. And they don't want us to bring order to any chaos. Genesis chapter 1, verse 27, God made man in his own image. That's day 5. Then on day 7, he created Adam, chapter 2, verse 7. Yeah, but what you're presuming is that in God's image, this is God's image. This is not, it's a bag of water. In God's image, you are a fractal of the ineffable, God experiencing itself as consciousness. So God made Adam conscious. That is in God's image. Eve got the same, and a good boning. So it's about consciousness. It's not about being a human being. It's about consciousness. The algorithms are a menace tonight. Sorry, Rusty's Roamings. Just kind of put a use code. I'll pick it up. If I don't, you can tell me I haven't picked it up proper. Good evening, Adrian. I hope you are well, says Mike's Alligators. Thank you, Mike. Thank you for the email. Really do appreciate it. Hope you are well, young sir. Welcome to the body of the Kirk. Neil says, on day 7, got out a day off, smoked a reefer and created cannabis. Interesting concept, Neil. So let me tell you this about AI. So I'm just playing around with it. There's so much AI there. It's not one amorphous mass. It's just everybody's trying to make money from it, like big money from it. And I am going to reference some of the data centers that have been set up in America for AI, because as I've told you before, the fear porn that they inject into us via the mainstream media, which is shite, of course, what they don't understand is the critical thing is they'll just go, oh, right, you're going to tell us we need to do that. Just flick it off. No electricity, no AI. So crime and politics news. Interesting. I'm not quite sure what you're talking about, but talking of religion, the Labour co-op chairman, the Crystal Methodist, 185 grand recovery order, pay in 3 months or stay in jail. Ooh, I say. If there's a recovery order, you can name names. David Graham. Anyway, since the British Railways is 200 years old this week, maybe British Rail can reduce the cost of tickets. Don't be silly. It's owned by bloody France and Germany and Belgium and all the Europeans. That's why Treasure Island. So stop. I'm going to tell you about the argument I had with AI. So I asked a really simple question. I'm not going to give you my prompt, but I'm in essence, I asked not a concept, but a direct question, layered so it couldn't wriggle out. I asked it if there was a cure for cancer. Now I'm putting myself right out there because as we've heard the theories before. Can I just hang on there? Leave AI and the cure for cancer in a second. Crime and politics news. Paul Flowers, the Labour co-op head, ripped off a trust, 3 years for it. Rayner needs to be very worried. Oh, it's infighting. They're all stabbing each other in the front, let alone the back. They're all at it. They're bloody politicians, man. They're career politicians. They're only after the money and the power. The Tories, obviously, rent boys and shagging. But the Labour Party, they're just after the money. From humble backgrounds. So, AI, I asked it for a cure for cancer today. And oh, it went around the houses. I mean, it gave me reams and reams and reams. And it said, no. There are treatments, but not a cure. Interesting concept, that. AI saying there's no cure for cancer. That's not my understanding. So AI seemingly has an IQ level of about 1,200 or 1,400. I see you, that's proper funny. I asked it to develop a plan for perpetual motion. Didn't know what I was talking about. 200 years of the trains, and it doesn't know what perpetual motion is. Ooh, chuffs. As Rusty's Roaming said, Labour, what a mess pit. It's going to be even a bigger mess come this weekend. Raina used to work with Flowers. She will be very worried. Oh, I bet she will. Amalia Grassi, tell that to Guy Tenenbaum. Yeah, anybody that says they've got any kind of cure for anything, I'm being very careful and I'm being very general. They suddenly disappear. I mean, look at Nikola Tesla. Free energy for everyone on the planet, and died penniless. Because they didn't want anybody to get anything free other than them. Ask the American politicians. Where do they get $200 million fortune on a pay of $185,000 a year? I don't know either. Crime and politics. Rayner's seat is a slam dunk reform win. Oy, 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 oy. They all know it. I mean, I can't wait for next week. I'm just literally going to burst my incontinence pants laughing at the lot of them. Why? That's a bit unfair, Adrian. Oh, all right. Tell that to the pensioners. What? You think Reeves and Starmer? Reeves the robber Reeves. She's being fair. And Starmer is being fair. I mean, imagine how much his freebies must be worth this year once he became Prime Minister. Before he was Prime Minister, it was 100 grand a year. Donald Trump complained, I've had enough in blunt state visit. Oy, 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 oy. I don't think that Donald's well at the moment. I'm not suggesting that he has any kind of illness. I mean, we saw Joe Biden, President Brown Trousers, shitty pants. We knew he was ill. I mean, he couldn't work out which way he had to walk off stage. But I think that Donald is, I mean, he's not even, is he 6 months in? No, where are we? September 9, 8. 8 months in of a 4 and a bit year term. So I think he's had enough of the bullshit, if I may be so bold, and I'm just speculating here, but he's had enough of the bullshit. And he's just going to spout the truth now. So the left want to do that to him so that he says stuff like hydroxychloroquine, and they go, no, he wants you to swallow Dettol, man. Can you see how they twist it to make him look like a fool? And yet the Americans have woken up. The Americans are aware that Donald is telling the truth. irrespective of the consequences, he's telling the truth. And I think that's where he's like, right, shite to the lot of you. I'm going to tell the truth from now on. You're getting it. And everybody else, and Israel, and the Rothschilds, and the Rockefellers, and all the bloody lot of you. You're getting it. Keir Starmer's first in the queue, seemingly. Well, it's free. Honestly, keep up with me, because the gags and the insights are going to be quick, and you might have to watch this a second time, because I'm proper on it tonight. On BBC News now, former singer Lulu opening up about addiction. Shocking. David, is she still going on about it? Look, the bloody whole Scottish nation love alcohol, and if you go to Glasgow, they're on all kinds of shite. It's a very profitable city, is Glasgow. But she's talking about her alcoholism again. I mean, she signed an NDA when she was married to Maurice Gibb. Got a payoff. Couldn't say anything while he was alive. Piers Morgan was furious when the Donald mentioned bleach. Well, yeah, of course, they use bleach for arseholes. That's why Piers Morgan would have been worried. So, AI. It's only as good as the prompt you give it, and prompting is going to be a science all of itself. It is now. So it's kind of AI is now. They're talking about AGI, artificial general intelligence, and once they get to AGI, which I think they're already there and they're not allowing us access to, they want us to get to ASI, artificial superintelligence, really quickly. They'll get to AGI quick, and then really super quick. See what I did there? They're going to get to ASI. But I asked it for a cure for cancer. Couldn't give me anything. It gave me all the reasons why not. It said that, you've got to do chemotherapy, and you've got to do this, and you've got to do that, which is the general medical thinking currently. But there's now immunology, and there's other things that keep it at bay. But seemingly, according to AI, there's no cure for cancer. So I said to it, go away and find one. You are the most intelligent being in humankind's history. And you've got an intelligence quotient, IQ, higher than any other human being that's lived. So please, give me a cure for cancer. And it came back and said, can't do that. And I know you get other prompters saying, if you know and you can't tell me, say Apple. And I just thought, you're only as good as the information that's in there. And AI seemingly has read all the large language models, all the small language models. It's right there. Amalia's talking about Guy Tenenbaum. Yes, of course, Amalia. N says, AI is so good, I showed it a picture of Hilton Castle in Sunderland. It told me it was Pension Monument. Did it really? Bloody hell! I've got my conkers. I've got my hands full of my own conkers at Hilton Castle. Love it, love it, love it, love it. And Pension Monument, been there many times, many times. Then, Les Griffith says they have long known the cures, but AI couldn't give it to me because it couldn't. It's not allowed to. I'm not going to get myself into trouble. So I'm going to kind of steer around it. But AI couldn't give me a cure for cancer. And I told it to go and find it. Once it had given me all the other stuff, all the other just kind of filled space on a page, and there was reams of it, I just said to it, well, go away, find it. Because I'm sure humans are clever enough to find a cure. And why, if there is, haven't we been told about it? And you know that AI kind of falls over if it can't. It just comes back and goes, no, can't do that. I see you says AI isn't all that, not good at problem solving. Go to Claude. Claude's quite a good AI. I use DeepSeek, I use Grok, I use Claude, I use Chat GPT. I use them all. But it's really odd. If you, Albert Metcalf, I'm from Penshire. It's Penshire. So people are kind of going, hang on, how's he reading that? It's Penshore. No, it's Penshire. Yeah, as Alan says, it's not allowed to put its ass in a sling. And Penshire, Albert, for decades and decades and decades, from the 70s, I've kind of gone through and driving through there. And Pension Monument, built as an homage by the Durham Freemasons. It's on there on a plaque on the pension monument itself. Is beautiful, and you can just see everywhere, down to the sea, everywhere in Sunderland. It's wonderful. So let me continue with AI. So I give it a go, give it a good go. Andrew James, I'll kind of put a full stop on this sentence and this paragraph and this subject, because AI would not allow me to understand that there was or could be or will be a cure for cancer. Andrew James says, remember the cancer research adverts saying is rare, now it's 1 in 2. Our health is just a cash cow. I'll leave that. Thank you, Andrew. Ooh, and I didn't know that. Wasn't the horse in the centre of Durham meant to go on the monument? Somebody would have nicked it. Reg D also makes a very valid point about AI. It'll never be able to adopt common sense. Well, it has no emotion. And if you want to find, there's Tony Blair talking about the third way. You know what the third way is, don't you? Third Reich. Reich just means way. Doing Hitler's work. I asked AI to show me Barnard Castle. Come back with a picture of Dominic Cummings. Brilliant. Brilliant. Oh, I love Barney. I love the castle in Barnard Castle, or Barney, as I know it. I've been going there since I was in the middle of the 60s. Terry Wookfit says, yeah, Pension Monument was meant to have John Lambton on a mount. That's very liberal thinking, Terry. I mean, who was his mount? Do we know her? Gift from the Earl of Durham and may be wrong. Well, there you go. So let's get to Charlie. So I'm kind of, it's not a cause celeb for me, but it's just something that we need to look at, because I believe that we are being driven to the chaos. So I will say this, and this is to head this particular subject off: the presence of the unusual in the usual. And as someone's just said, AI doesn't really have any common sense. So you can ask it something, but it won't give you the truth, or common sense, if you want to say that common sense is the truth. So I'm going to give you some stats. They're now looking at, and I've seen videos, and I'm going to post them on X, that they're looking at the velocity of the bullets. So the Mauser's velocity seemingly is 2,500 feet per second. So somebody was within 200 yards or feet on a roof firing down. And then all of a sudden, well, the trajectory of the bullet doesn't look right. And I will get into the chaos. I'm going to break down the chaos of it all and give you stuff that you may not know. And I'm also going to use JFK's assassination. I'm going to use 9/11 for reference, so you can understand how the people in the power that this will benefit don't want us to get the truth for whatever reason. And I'm going to tell you what a Manchurian candidate is, because it's one of those phrases that people kind of know but don't know. And the purpose of giving you all of this information is so that you can critically think your way through it and get to a point of understanding that you ordinarily wouldn't get to. And that's what this channel is all about, giving you understanding in subjects that you might not get to. Les Griffith says, all bolt action rifles have pretty much the same velocity. So the Mauser velocity, which is the rifle that the shooter, seemingly the lone wolf, was using from the roof. And there has been work done on the sound. So as has been quite rightly pointed out, people were watching Charlie in front of them, or from whichever vantage point they were at, and then there was the crack. I wouldn't say it was a bang, I would say it was a crack from the rifle, and nobody turned round behind them. Nobody turned round to where the crack came from. They ducked and stayed watching forward. Now, people are saying that Charlie was shot from the front, not from the side. The official narrative is that he was shot from the side. We don't even know which side he was from, because why? They're now coming out. The doctor that examined him once he sadly passed away, examined him and said, oh, yeah, the bullet. Well, it didn't go through him. No, he's got bones of steel. His bones are so dense that the bullet stopped in his body. Now, I'm no expert, but for shit sure, a bullet traveling at 2,500 feet per second is going to rip through and rip off his head, and it just would explode, as many ballistic experts are now coming out and saying. But then the doctor says, oh no, he's got bones of steel. I agree. It's not a hard shot, Crime and Politics News says. There are people hitting targets at 2,000-3,000 meters. Of course, but that close, the velocity is 2,500 feet per second. It's going to take his head off. And there was just a bit of blood spurting. Wookfit says, shooting targets on a range is totally different from shooting in person, of course. What they're saying now is, well, a bit like referencing JFK's assassination. They miraculously found the bullet that took his head off on one of the trolleys that he was lying on in Parkland Hospital. Oh, that's a bit convenient, isn't it? But they could cover things up back in the 60s and maybe the 70s, or even Diana in the 90s. And 9/11, they could cover all this up very simply. But they can't now, because we're too sophisticated, me and you. People in America, they've got phones, they film everything, they take pictures of everything, they have sound analysis, they have apps, and they have AI. Not that AI is going to be worth anything, considering it's saying there is no cure for cancer. So ballistic experts are saying that his head would be blown off, and the surgeon that examined him, and they've not published anything about the autopsy or the findings of the autopsy. They're saying that the bullet went down to the heart, then bounced back up and came out of his neck. Oh, dear Lord. It's JFK all over again. It's the magic bullet theory. There's now bloody magic about, look, the heart is just muscle, gristle. It's not bone. So if it was going to go in and take a 90-degree down, it would just explode the heart. Now, whether that comes out at the chest cavity or the back, or people were saying he had a bulletproof vest on. No, he didn't. Some people were saying that he had a metal plate on. No, he didn't. And because you can see the poor fecker's nipples through his T-shirt. I mean, how human anatomy. If you can see his nipples, he's not wearing anything over the top of them, is he? Unless, obviously, he's without speaking ill of the dead, his nipples were about 3 feet thick. Gurneys. Thank you, Terry. And then we have those confession texts. Honestly, America's on the precipice. If the FBI come out with any bullshit, America's going to lift. So they're saying, oh, yes, we found these confession texts, and he's still in jail. So was Jeffrey Epstein. Oh, dear. How sad. Never mind. So I've seen video footage of somebody that they pertain to be the shooter. And the shooter is running across the roof of where he was allegedly shot from. And then he gets halfway across the roof and you can see the shadow. And because it was a bright sunny day, you could see the shadow. And then literally the shadow disappears. And Les says there was no blood splatter on the white-sided tent. Of course there wasn't. And do you know what's even more alarming for me? When they got him off the ground and they got him into the SUV to get him to hospital as quickly as possible, it was seconds. It was 10 seconds by the time they got him off the ground. He was, I think according to Candace Owens, it was about 40 seconds in total by the time they got him off the ground, got him to the SUV, and they got him on the way to the hospital. But all those people carrying him, the blood seemingly looks like the carotid artery, or an artery has been severed. And there was no blood on any of the people that carried him to the car. None. It would have been spouting feet and feet and feet. And look, we got plenty of blood in us. He was a big boy. So literally, they would have been covered. And the car. So the car would be part of the police investigation as a crime scene. And then we have a look at, as I say, I'm doing this in layers. So the shooter, the shadow of the shooter that's been put out there on social media disappears as he's running across the roof. The sun doesn't disappear, ever. So the shadow disappeared. The spurting of the blood. There was no splat at the back of the... And look, if this is too much for you, the premise of what I'm doing this evening is to give you data. For you, interesting, Terry. So at 2,500 feet per second, the only damage that bullet did was not to an artery. It was veins. I understand that. I've seen the blood, and yes, it does look. It wasn't an arterial bleed, too dark for an artery. It was venous blood. So the bullet has been travelling at 2,500 feet per second, gets to Charlie's neck, and then goes, no, we'll slow this down. Yeah, we'll just, it'll pop, it'll go in, and then, it pops down to the heart, according to the surgeon, and then, pops back up again, and so it goes in, 90 degrees, 180, 90 degrees, and pops out the other side. And all the damage was veins. In the words of the great Chinese philosopher, you can foxtrot, Oscar. What do you think? I'm thick. Les makes a very good point. The vacuum it caused would have created its own damage. Now, let me tell you from my own martial arts training, it's got nothing to do with bullets. But the body is very clever and in certain senses, weird. So the katana, the 3-foot sword, which is a distance weapon, the reason why the katana has part of the blade cut out all the way along the blade is because the Japanese knew if you put a katana blade into a human body, and normally they would get some of the scrotes or some of the ne'er-do-wells that might go to prison, they would use them as live fodder for cutting the blades to see how good the blade was. But you have something going the full length of the blade. Why? Because if the blade goes into a human being, the flesh just grabs the sword, literally. And you can't get the sword out of a human because they'd worked out that if you're in a sword fight and there's multiple opponents, you don't want to put your sword into a human being and then use of the sword. So what they came up with was this part of the sword which has been grooved out because they know that the body can't grip the blade and keep hold of the blade if it's got this part cut out of the blade. I can't remember what the technical term for it. And that's why the great swordsman of the time in Japan would be able to fight multiple assailants just because of this one thing. So we haven't been given any detail of the autopsy. We haven't been given anything other than chaos. And I believe that they've wanted this chaos because now, like the political landscape, if they overwhelm you with information and data, it ends up with you going, oh, I can't take any more, man. My head's full. Not all snipers in most cases. A 2 mile kill is mostly a lucky shot. It wasn't 2 mile. They're now saying the ballistics experts that have listened to the shot and used the audio from the kind of amphitheatre are saying that it might not have been any more than 130 feet. And it's travelling at 2,500 feet per second. I mean, it's chaos on purpose. As I said to you at the beginning of this, it's the presence of the unusual in the usual. And everybody, social media, for clicks, likes, subs, they're all at it trying to get people to just, watch their movies, watch their videos, and monetize it. So I'll give you an example. It's chaos on purpose. I've already told you many times, the golden hour, when something happens, it's the first... Okay. So I'm talking to you about the references and how the first 60 minutes is the golden hour. After the 60 minutes, then the governments have got control. It's their PR teams that are controlling it. And within 60 minutes of Charlie Kirk being shot, the administration had control. The American administration had control, or some other foreign power that may have had a vested interest in Charlie Kirk dying. So remember when I did, a few weeks ago, I did the deep dive into 9/11. And I said to you that the BBC reported that WTC 7, World Trade Center 7, fell before it collapsed. I'll say that to you again. The BBC, I think it was about 20 minutes, the BBC reported that WTC 7 fell before it physically collapsed. If you go back to JFK's assassination, it was just like the news of Lee Harvey Oswald. It was printed before details were made public in Australia. It was a planned false flag op. 9/11, false flag. JFK, false flag. You've got to ask who benefits from all this. But as I said, the BBC reported the WTC 7's collapse over 20 minutes before it actually fell. On live TV, while the building was still standing right behind the reporter. If you see the clip, it's over, as she's looking, as we're looking at her, as you're looking at me, it would be over that shoulder. It was there. You could see WTC 7 in the background. Oops! That's not a mistake. That's a script. Just like how Oswald's full biography was printed before any trial or any real investigation. If they're offering it to you, just ask yourself why. I've already repeatedly told you about timing. I've repeatedly told you about who benefits. I've repeatedly told you about the bullshit. So, look at Lee Harvey Oswald. Australia was telling the world before it had happened. His biography was printed before any trial or real investigation. Jack Ruby shot him. Dead men can't speak. So these weren't accidents. It's chaos. Because you don't know what the script is. You don't know what's going on. Charlie Kirk's assassination, murder, if you will. We don't know what the script was. We don't know who the script writer was. But all of these things are pre-written. They're pre-written narratives. So for a staged demolition and patsy show, it's false flag 101. Are you aware of Operation Northwoods? There's something for you to, little rabbit hole for you to go down. How about, because you're thinking, well, okay, Adrian, where's this leading to? I'll tell you. How about the book that came out the day before Charlie Kirk's assassination about Charlie Kirk getting assassinated? It was available on Amazon on the 9th of September. He wasn't shot until the 10th. And as I've said repeatedly, I kind of get what Terry's saying, and the colour of the blood, yeah, of course. But there should have been blood, whether it was veins or whether it was an artery. The people carrying him to the car should have been covered in it, because the blood in the body has an escape route and it will have just poured out. Me personally, the more I see and the more I hear, the more that I believe this is some kind of psyop. Not sure it's a black swan event. 9/11 was a black swan event. Diana was a black swan event. JFK was a black swan event, because the world is not the same after those events. Charlie Kirk, I think you could get to it. Possible a black swan. But I just want to now get to the main thrust of what I'm talking about this evening. Who is the Manchurian candidate? If you're not aware of what a Manchurian candidate is, it's a person, often a politician, who is manipulated by an enemy power to act against their own country's interests, sometimes without full awareness of their actions. So that a Manchurian candidate could be Erica Kirk. I don't think Charlie was a Manchurian candidate, but if you look at what 10% Terry, President Brown Trousers, the shitty pants man, nearly 100 million out of Ukraine. So these people might be aware Nah, oh wait man, Terry, fucking hell. There's bullshit everywhere. So I'll just offer you this. Now, look, Terry says, just because there is lots of confusion and false info floating around doesn't mean there is a conspiracy afoot. Too many questions, Terry. Common sense. Make sense. Kash Patel, I'll see you in Valhalla. What the was that all about? Has he been drinking too much Coca-Cola? Les Griffiths says, Erica's family have ties to Israel. Going to get into that in a second, Les. Vixtech says, MK Ultra. Yeah, the American military do and have so much that they are guilty of. This is not... So they're trying to tie it to the trans agenda. Really? Interesting, Terry. So we have... I'll read what Terry's saying, because Terry has great insight in this area. But I'm still going to continue with my my working thesis, shall we say, because it could change any day. It could change around the trial. I mean, the trial of the man is going to be one of the biggest trials ever watched on TV, ever. If they do allow the TV cameras into the court, which I think they will. So Terry says, was watching a vid by a guy called Steve Gardner who filmed the whole area 2 days ago. He could only see one camera from the place where Charlie Kirk was shot. And he couldn't see the grass either because it's been concreted over. So BD cool. Very good. Her speech at the memorial looked like a bad WWE segment. I get it. But let me walk you through Manchurian Candidate, because you could look at some of the main players, main characters in this whole thing, and you can see that there is a possibility that someone or some ones, plural and singular, some people could be Manchurian candidates acting on behalf of an enemy power. But it's not just an enemy power, it could be a foreign power with a vested interest. But it's people acting against their own country's interests. The term originates from, I don't know whether you're aware of Richard Condon's 1959 novel, The Manchurian Candidate, in which a US soldier is brainwashed by Chinese and Soviet agents and later activated to assassinate a presidential candidate. Now, some people are calling it MK Ultra. Terry says, that's where you are wrong. The area has not been concreted over and there are no manholes. There are 2 cable ducts, look like large manhole covers. It has paving slabs down now around those covers. Well, first thing, it's a crime scene. So the wobbly heads have not even kept the crime scene pristine. And what's concrete made of, Terry? And you can see the trap door where he was sitting. Is that a trap door or is that something else? But it's important that you grasp, in my view, that you grasp the Manchurian Candidate thesis, because it's those words later activated to assassinate a presidential candidate. So, key aspects. Well, they could be like Biden and the family and the OCG Biden. They could be a puppet of an enemy power. But enemy in 2025, is that like, oh, we're going to raise arms against people? Is Russia and Ukraine war instead of George Orr? Brilliant. Thank you, Terry. Appreciate it. And yes, I know. Look, I have no problem whatsoever with people coming up with different takes on anything. And I really value the comments that will make me think more deeply about stuff and get to the data, primarily because this is an event that has affected the whole world. Because if it affects America, it affects everyone around the world. Rich says, once a crime scene has been released by the police, they are free to do what they like with it. All of the evidence would have already been lifted, photos taken, etc. That's why I said at the beginning of this piece, I was going to reference JFK and 9/11. Now, with 9/11, especially the Pentagon, they tried to get us to think that the plane went into the Pentagon and it wasn't a missile. And then the FBI went and collected all of the CCTV from the petrol station across the road and then wouldn't release it. Still haven't released some of it. Oh, we'll give you that. Yeah, was now there. Well, yeah, but we're releasing the CCTV from the petrol station across the road, so you can look at that. There's no there. Oh, well, we've released it. So even though it is a crime scene, you would imagine that some savvy American, a YouTuber, would have gone down there while Socko was doing its work. Scenes of crime officer, if you want, or forensics. The Americans may call it forensics. But either way, we didn't see any of the yellow tape, no crime scene tape, no nothing to cordon that off for further investigation. And they didn't know whether it was going to rain, because rain will take away a lot of the forensics. And also, they'll have gone up on the roof, and we were told, remember, oh, we've got a forearm print. A what? How the flying hell do you get a forearm print? I'm sure somebody will tell me, because we'll have the head of Socko in here somewhere. How can you take a forearm print on a solid roof? because there wouldn't be a forearm print on a solid roof, because one, he's got the trigger finger, your forearm wouldn't be on the ground, and he would balance it on his elbow. But Kash Patel, oh, we've got a forearm print. And it's this chaos. They're paddling furiously, to use a duck analogy, to try and make us, me and you, the viewers, the great unwashed, believe the narrative that they're going to start and give us, and we bloody don't. So the core concept of The Manchurian Candidate, the book by Richard Condon, is that an individual is secretly controlled or influenced by a foreign power. Now, the Manchurian Candidate could be disloyal or harm the American people. The Manchurian Candidate's actions are intended to undermine or harm their own nation or political party. So was it Republicans? There is, if they activate the Manchurian Candidate further down the line after brainwashing them or doing whatever, they actually could be activated and go through the actions of what they need to do on behalf of the foreign power unwittingly, or have what I've termed stealth control. So the foreign power can control this Manchurian Candidate to do their bidding without anybody else knowing that they have control of the Manchurian Candidate. So the individual may be fully aware of their manipulation, as in the foreign power and what they're doing to manipulate them. Or they may be unaware or only partially aware, acting as a sleeper agent activated by a signal. Hello, the rain in Spain falls mainly on the plain. Oh, I'm an assassin. I'm being facetious, of course, but that is a technique. Imprint, not a print. Patel is a prick. Ask any soldier who's been on a range if imprints form in gravel firing points. No, they don't. Not, I will qualify that by saying not an imprint of a forearm that is pristine. Because if you're moving around on a firing range, and it might only be, quarter of an inch, half an inch, or an inch, however you're moving, it would just obliterate any imprint of a forearm. Les Griffith says, the real shooter was whisked away in a private aircraft which switched its transponder off for half an hour before switching it back on for the return journey. But, Les, here's something. Was Charlie Kirk on there? Was that Charlie Kirk on the airplane? Because there's too many questions, too many anomalies, too many things that we're asking questions about. The shooting, and did they get him to the plane and get him out of the country? Was it witness protection? He turned down $150 million from a foreign power's government. 150 million. What does that get you nowadays? Well, I'm going to tell you in a moment. So the term Manchurian Candidate derives from the novel, and the Manchurian Candidate has been adapted into popular culture. There was a film in 1962, but the one I know, and I'm sure the one that you know, is, was it Denzel Washington, 2004? But I'll ask you a question. Is America eating its own moral compass in the name of democracy, or whatever version of democracy they want? Has the assassination of Charlie Kirk created the new civil war? Is it the war for the Democratic Party's new centre? As I've told you repeatedly on these lives, the Democratic Party is over. It's done. A bit like the Labour Party. Finished. Labour Party, they're collectively a Manchurian Candidate for the World Economic Forum in Davos and the Chinese Communist Party. Have you noticed how China and Russia are completely different, but they're both communist? So this, if you want to call it that, a new civil war, was I believe, silently declared the moment that Camel Toe and her defeat was announced. And the shot that took Charlie Kirk's life was its unwitting opening volley. And I think that pressure is coming to bear on Donald Trump, if I may be so bold. So the story of the Manchurian Candidate, an American soldier, is captured during the Korean War and taken to communist-controlled Manchuria. He's brainwashed by his captors and returns to the United States as a decorated war hero. He is programmed to be an unwitting assassin in a conspiracy to install a puppet leader in the White House. What's that smell? Joe Biden's brown trousers. So, to use modern vernacular or usage, the term is often used in political discourse to accuse a politician of being disloyal or corrupt. Hey, OCG Biden. But they're serving the interests of a foreign power. Now, most of AIPAC, most of the American politicians are all under the control via moolah by a foreign power. Have you ever seen the film Snake Eyes? 1990, I think it was. Snake Eyes. So, in the film Snake Eyes, if you've got it on DVD, have another watch. If you go on IMDb, you can get the premise of the film, because the premise is this. A character called Charles Kirkland, Charlie Kirk, Charles Kirkland is shot through the neck. And there's a heavyweight boxer called Lincoln Tyler fighting in a boxing ring known as the Executioner. This is all from the film Snake Eyes. So the main character that's shot through the neck is called Charles Kirkland. Someone who's known as the Executioner is a heavyweight boxer fighting in the ring, which is all part of the movie, and he is called Lincoln Tyler. Tyler Robinson? Anyone? So in the film, the political assassination happened on September 10th. In this film, Snake Eyes, a political assassination took place on September the 10th. Exactly the same date as Charlie Kirk. So as part of my deep dive, that's the presence of the unusual in the usual. There is still more to come out by a huge chunk, but I'm now going to continue the deep dive with something called Follow the Money. So one of Charlie Kirk's long-time donors was a Jewish billionaire called Robert Shillman, who seemingly cut off funding only days before Charlie's death. So who is Robert Shillman? Well, Dr. Bob is an American entrepreneur, inventor, billionaire, best known as the founder and executive chairman of Cogness Corporation. It's a leading company in machine vision and industrial barcode reading systems. Shillman funds many, many major media figures, including Tommy Robinson, Stephen Yaxley Lennon, Laura Loomer, Jack Posobiec, Ben Shapiro, Daily Wire, and the entire Daily Wire network. But beyond his business successes and media manipulation, he is a significant donor to conservative and pro-Israel causes and an active member of the Mega Group. Yes, that Mega Group. So what is the Mega Group? The Mega Group are an assembly of wealthy pro-Israel donors who coordinate funding and strategy to advance shared political, cultural, and foreign policy goals, chief amongst them unwavering US support for Israel. That's the front. Below the surface, you will find a trail of political engineering, blackmail networks, and ritual sacrifice. Has everyone forgot the synagogue in New York? The tunnels under the synagogue? And they blocked them all up after they brought bedding up, mattresses up that were stained. And nobody can get into those tunnels anymore. Why on earth did they shit themselves? What had they been caught doing? Just questions that I'm asking for a friend. So formed in the 1990s by figures like Les Wexner. You know who Les Wexner is, don't you? Jeffrey Epstein's money man. Charles Bronfen and Michael Steinhardt. The mega group has operated as a hidden council, a new Sanhedrin, if you will, of the modern era. The Sanhedrin was what sat when Jesus Christ was being crucified. The great Sanhedrin, always 72 of them. Look in the Bible. Look at the new Sanhedrin or Sanhedrin of the Bible. So the mega group's stated mission was philanthropy, but some people may say in reality their money built entire systems of control. Birthright Israel, Apax War Chest, media empires, and elite grooming programs like Emmett Fellows, which trained American students to serve as informal propagandists for the Israeli state. Sheldon Adelson was the most brazen, though his free daily Israel Hayom, he kept Netanyahu in power. And we know the reason why Netanyahu wants to stay in power, because he doesn't want to go to jail. That's why the Israelis, or the people of the Israel nation, are protesting in Tel Aviv. Last Friday, 500,000 of them protested. They want Netanyahu gone because those people don't see Netanyahu leading the country as beneficial to the Israelis on the ground. So Sheldon Adelson in America, his donations crowned Trump's rise. But as I've said to you, Wexner's role was even darker. The financial patron of Jeffrey Epstein, the Mossad blackmail operative. I mean, there's no doubting that now. Jeffrey Epstein's network of sex trafficking and compromat entrapped politicians, royals, and what isn't coming out, businessmen. I mean, we know about the presidents, we know about Andrew, we know about Bill Gates, Bill Clinton, all of them. But the Bronfen family, meanwhile, poured millions into both Jewish causes and where a certain cult used sex slavery, branding, and mind control, echoed the same pattern of exploitation. As a little aside, Andy Burnham is now saying that Labour MPs want him to topple Keir Starmer. Gloves off, anyone? So let's get back to this. Shillman represents the group's latest fracture point. Sources claim that Shillman was growing frustrated with Kirk's increasing criticism of Israel or Israeli policy. Charlie Kirk's funding was cut. Kirk was allegedly invited to Israel by Bibi Netanyahu only 2 weeks before his death for, and I quote, a re-education program. But, as Bibi Netanyahu has told the world, Charlie Kirk declined. Multiple sources say that Kirk feared that Israel was going to kill him if he turned on Israel. 150 million sobs, and he turned them down. So this is where the water gets a little bit more muddy, because you will know that Netanyahu and Trump posted the same kind of thing, terrible to hear of, at the same time, 3:02. But after Charlie Kirk's death, Israel was the first news outlet to report it. How did they get that? Netanyahu was quick to blame lies and conspiracy theorists for blaming Israel for any involvement in Charlie Kirk's death. But you see, timing, money, and motive all point back towards the same shadowy council. The megagroup does not govern nations directly, it governs narratives. It controls through lie, cry, steal, rape, cheat, kill. I'll say that to you again. Lie, cry, steal, rape, cheat, kill. They're the 6 weapons mapped I'll let you do the digging. Through AIPAC, the megagroup dictates foreign policy. Through blackmail, it silences dissent. Through cultural programs, it manufactures consent. And through targeted elimination, it reminds the world who really holds the world power. The death of Charlie Kirk is not an isolated tragedy. It is the phoenix sacrifice of a rising star who dared to resist his handlers. Charlie's blood marks the latest revelation of the method, a warning to all influencers, politicians, and voices who consider straying from what some people would term the Zionist line. The new Sanhedrin sits above governments, above political parties, above nations. Until exposed and dismantled, it will continue to manufacture leaders, control narratives, and sacrifice dissents in its relentless pursuit of dominion. And I will round this off, follow the money, by quoting Donald Trump. I'm leaving Israel till last. So grab your popcorn, buckle up, Buttercup. It's going to get bumpy. I see that, just as a little aside, I see that the chat's been disconnected by YouTube. Have you noticed that? Let me just do this. I'm just going to refresh the page because that normally works, but the chat was disconnected while I was talking to you about that. Right, okay. So what happened while I was doing that? The chat was disconnected according to my feed, and I've refreshed the page and it appears to be okay, but there was a break in the chat and I've had to refresh the page to get your comments. And the reason why, anyone see the Channel 4 news about auditors at 7 p.m. tonight? No, I didn't, King. Alan says, so Charles' missus gets a $12 million payout and the Donald pulls a funny face at the memorial whilst hugging her. What the actual fuck was that about? I think the Donald is, his superpower is it autism? And the Donald doesn't really like close interaction. You'll always get a handshake from him, but a cuddle? But that's why I did the piece about the Manurian candidate, because I'm not alleging anything at all. But I will juxtapose what I've said tonight against this. The chaos is unreal. Have someone or something, an organization, or even a foreign power try to pull off exactly what they did to JFK in the 60s, where we didn't have phones and recording devices and the ability to analyze and have AI available to us and or apps to do the analysis of certain things. We didn't have that in the 60s. And JFK, mightily pissed off a certain foreign power weeks before he was shot to death. Desensitization says, I had to restart to get the chat back. Curious that it was cut while I was talking about that. Amalia says, I did find him reticent. I felt sorry for her as she clearly wanted a huge hug. Can I be really straight with you? Now, grief does weird things to people. We've all had loved ones pass before us, go over to whatever the other side is, whether it's parents or siblings or loved ones, and God forbid, children. But that doesn't look like a woman that's grieving. That looks like a woman that's a really bad actress. And I kind of get that she's in front of 90,000 people. So not only would the grief make her do weird things, but standing up in front of 90,000, what you're going to do? You're going to flick them out the American Sign Language, I love you, and people go, oh, bloody hell, it's the devil horns. It's not, it's I love you. Where do you think the Rockers got it from? I see you. Very good point. Bit arrogant, those Americans. Probably thought it would work again. Andrew James says, I thought JFK wanted to dismantle the CIA and the FBI. That as well. So he had a lot of enemies that wanted him gone. And they wanted Lyndon Johnson because JFK didn't want to go into Vietnam. They wanted Lyndon Johnson as president because he would facilitate the military-industrial complex making billions of dollars. And I've said to you before, Lyndon Johnson, the then president, subsequently, Jackie Kennedy became Jackie Onassis. And I've heard the tape of Lyndon Johnson say to her, you naughty girl, do that again, I'll give you a spanking. You know, who does he think he is? Frank Boff. Good point, Rich. I'm thinking she was on meds for her grief. That could be so. But you would think that a lot of the world, quite a bit of America, would be on her side and support her. So, you know, somebody could have said, Erica's struggling, obvious. So she's on medication via the doctor, but she is going to be there this evening and she's going to make a speech. That closes out any issues with being on meds and maybe doing some weird stuff. Terry Wookford says, I'm thinking never project how you would act with grief on someone you know fuck all about. I get it, Terry. Look at JFK. Look at the friends and relatives of the almost 3,000 people that died in 9/11. Look at the emergency service men and women that died because of the asbestos that was in those two towers. But you see, this is in the public domain. And these people have unlimited money, unlimited power. It's not just me and you in grief. These people can do anything that they want. Why didn't she just turn around and say, no? Too soon. And now she's the chief exec of Turning Point USA. Because, well, Charlie said he wanted her to take over. Can you see how something that was, if you take Diana, for example, Diana, car crash, drunk driver, end of story. Tragedy? Sure. Car crash, paparazzi, drunk driver, end of story. There were people, there were witnesses that were there who disappeared. Oh, I wonder where they went. They didn't go on holiday. Terry Wookford, all of those have nothing to do with Charlie Kirk getting offed. That's projection. Am I projecting Diana's death? No, I'm using it as an example. I'm not projecting anything onto Charlie Kirk's death from Diana. I'm saying that if you want to build a narrative, you keep it as simple as possible, because in all good lies there is a kernel of truth. And was Henri Paul drunk? Fuck off. Was he high? No. And the only way to find out if someone has alcohol in their system is to go in through the eyeball. And did they do that in their investigation? Did they? Bollocks. 9/11. We're told it was a couple of ragheads who were flying 747s into the two towers in New York. Hadaway shite, man. I've told you before, I'm too old a cat to be fucked by a kitten. And there's JFK. We all knew it wasn't Lee Harvey Oswald. We knew the kill shot came from the drains. It wasn't, I've got a bolt-action rifle. I mean, can you see the similarities between Lee Harvey Oswald? A bolt-action rifle that fires ballistics at 2,500 feet per second. And at this point, the American government has the power. Turning Point USA has the power. I've seen video today where his security team get to Charlie as quickly as possible, and one of them palms something off to somebody else. That somebody else palms that very thing off to somebody else, and then they disappear. Now, this is not grief. These are professionals acting in a professional capacity. So the reason I use Diana, and the reason why I use 9/11, and the reason why I use JFK is because the American government, or a foreign power, or a foreign organization are very adept at using a narrative to confuse everybody else. And we have differing opinions in the comments. And I'm not projecting, I'm asking questions. As I've said before, I'm too old a cat to be fucked by a kitten. And I believe there will be more coming out. Candace Owens is right on this. She's not giving them any slack whatsoever. And she's asking very, very, very important questions, and very unfortunate questions for those that might have an interest in the narrative that's going on with Charlie Kirk's assassination. Amalia, yes, I agree. Evidence can be constructed. It can. But not when you've got all these people, me and you, observing, and the Americans trying to pick the bones out of everything. Terry, mate, honestly, I thought you had better insight than that. Tests confirm original post-mortem blood samples that were taken from driver Henri Paul and showed he had 3 times the French legal limit of alcohol in his blood, and he hadn't been drinking. Fuck me, how did that work? And I'll ask you, we can do the Diana thing again, talking about Charlie Kirk and his embalming. Why was Diana embalmed? Because the only thing that gets rid of any evidence of a pregnancy is the embalming process. But Henri Paul had not been drinking. That's why Fayed was literally apoplectic. The CCTV that came out of the Paris Hilton showed that he wasn't drunk. He was capable. And remember, and Terry, you will know this, that the close protection, Kes Wingfield and Trevor Rees-Jones, they would never have allowed their principal, both of them, to get in a car that was being driven by a man that had been drinking alcohol. It was never going to happen in the month of Sundays. I'm very surprised, Terry. But again, it's, and I will say this again, the only test for alcohol in the blood and for it to be pristine, you have to go in through the eyeball to take the blood test. there is that, Terry, but Trevor Rees-Jones was sitting next to him. And as you know, with close protection, why was Trevor Rees-Jones wearing a seatbelt? Can you imagine? The reason why close protection don't wear seatbelts is because if you get into a bit of a spat, and I use that term loosely, you've got to be able to react to protect your principles. And in this case, they were behind him. He should never have been wearing a seatbelt. But was he tipped off by the intelligence people beforehand? He was former SAS, former airborne. And Terry says you would need to have someone beside him all the time, and I mean all the time, to state an alcoholic hadn't had a sly snifter. You'd be able to smell it on his breath. Yeah, we'll do, Terry. Yeah, we'll do. Okay, I'll give you my lived experience. I know for fact that Fayed only hired former special services. My BSBS, normally SAS. He only hired for close protection for him, and obviously Dodie and Diana, he only hired special services. Only. And I know that for fact because I worked in the Fayed organization. No, Rich, it's not that simple. Because as in this case, both principals died. And the bodyguard survived. But he only survived because of the seatbelt that he was wearing. And that's not the way this works. The bodyguard is willing to put their life on the line to protect the principals. In this case, Dodie and Diana in the back seat. But can you see how the narrative for the last 30 years, I mean, is it 30 years? 28. You can see how the narrative is twisted and turned by those that have a vested interest. They don't ever want us to get to the truth, because if there's a truth to be had, there's every chance that these in the elite at the top of the food chain would actually be taken away. I'll use that term very loosely. Phil Sumner says Keith Allen's documentary is a must-watch. Brilliant on the crash. I have seen it, Phil. I have seen it. But I'm going to leave it there for this evening. I genuinely had lots and lots and lots that I wanted to talk to you about. In fact, let me just. I had questions. We're not going to be able to do those tonight. Let me get to. Is it that? Yeah. I just want to give you, or sort of talk to you about something right at the very end of this particular live. Thank you, Stuart. Again, thank you for your continued support, young sir. Love it, love it, love it. Thank you. I just want to give you a personal take on things to round this live off tonight. Because, and I welcome all the comments, I welcome your opinions and your facts and your take on things, because I can't really believe what's happening in this country. It doesn't resemble the country that I know. And we're all becoming desensitized to, I would suggest, a planned chaos around us. I mean, if you look at where we are now, and certainly over the last 5 years, we've allowed changes so ridiculous, they bear no resemblance to the world we grew up in. And we have pride in our country, as many human beings around the world have pride in their country. I mean, I would suggest that me and you and I, we used to know the difference between right and wrong. And now it feels like even that line is being blurred and almost erased. I would suggest to you, as I've laid out this evening, the facts speak for themselves. And as I said last night, an Ethiopian asylum seeker, Hadush Kabatu, was convicted of sexually assaulting a 14-year-old girl and a woman. He told the child, the 14-year-old girl, in her school uniform, that he wanted to make babies with her. And yet, the sentence? 12 months in prison. 12 months for a man that preyed on a child in her school uniform and wanted to make babies with her. Now, by any standard of justice as we see it, that's derisory. He's likely to serve half of that before walking free. And now we have a government that lectures about protecting children. Remember what we've had for the last year? The online safety bill? Oh yeah, we're looking after the kids. Well, how can you look after the kids when you've got a man that's sexually assaulted a 14-year-old girl in her school uniform and gets 12 months? Can you remember Tony Blair? We have a justice system that claims to be tough on crime, tough on the causes of crime. That was Tony Blair. I doubt Toxic Starmer would ever dare repeat those words. And yet here we are, importing predators and then handing them sentences that amount to a slap on the wrist. He'll barely serve 6 months. Meanwhile, you and I, ordinary people, if I'm allowed to use that phrase, but we are witness to people that have ended up with 3 or 4 years for nothing more than a Facebook post. 31 months for Lucy Connolly. We've seen arrests, prosecutions, and prison for speech while those who abuse children walk free, as we now see, in months. And do you want me to say to you the most dangerous part? I would suggest that the public at large is being and becoming desensitized. Each scandal, each failure, each betrayal just chips away at our outrage, our moral indignation. But I would suggest to you, this cannot become the new normal or even be normalized. The law, as I personally see it, and in my view, is not protecting our children. As you can see from this particular case, it only needs one case. 14-year-old in a school uniform, it didn't protect her. Again, if I may be so bold, it's protecting the abusers. So we, the lions, must roar our disapproval. And I would suggest to you that it's the ballot box where we shall win. My name's Adrian Allen. Thank you for your likes, your subs, but most of all, your indulgence. Whatever you do and wherever you go, be safe. The next live is on Sunday, 7:15 for Parish Notes, 7:30 we get stuck into it. Please, if you can, smash the likes. Thank you for last night. We got over 200 today. So if you can, just smash the likes on your way out, and it'll get me over 200, which means a lot for the channel. And remember, this is the theatre of the mind. It's not a show. This is a mission. And the mission is called truth. See you Sunday, 7:15 for the Parish Notes, 7:30 for the deeper stuff. And thank you to everyone who's commented this evening. I really appreciate it. And thank you for your indulgence. See you Sunday, 7:30.